In the year 2053, after the last war, the crime rate had risen by more than 800%, creating a crushing strain on the prison system. To deal with the crisis, the government introduced the box rehabilitation program, an approach that earlier generations would have considered unthinkable. Under this system, prisoners were forced to choose between two severe options: they could end their sentence permanently and immediately, or they could serve it entirely inside a box. Food and water were provided only when the citizens they had wronged chose to give it. Anyone attempting escape faced the harshest consequences. Inside one of these boxes, a French woman struggled to survive while bearing numerous wounds. She had been sentenced to 4 years, with a little over 2 still remaining. Her pot had run dry, and when she checked the hatch for supplies, she found something unexpected. Overwhelmed and exhausted, she reached a breaking point. On a rocky island off the coast of Australia, several boxes rested near the shore. One day, somewhere two kids playing nearby tossed a rubber band ball, accidentally striking one of the boxes. The impact startled the woman inside. Prisoner 13 slowly became aware of her situation, her hands and legs bound. Using sheer determination, she worked at the restraints with her teeth until she finally freed herself. She had been given a sentence of 7 years, and today marked her first day inside the box. Without warning, a light on the wall beeped, and a small hatch slid open. 13 leaned toward it and caught a glimpse of the kids walking away outside. Just a moment later, the light beeped again, and the hatch snapped shut. As 13 pleaded for freedom, a screen inside the box flickered on. A video began to play, explaining the rules of the system and the conditions she would live under. It ended with a message insisting that she was exactly where she had chosen to be. Overwhelmed, 13 broke down and pounded on the walls, shouting that she was innocent. She cried and screamed until exhaustion finally pulled her into sleep. Later, the hatch opened again. To celebrate, 13 citizens had granted amnesty to every prisoner, hoping for except those held for political reasons. Determined, she began examining every corner of the box, searching for anything that might offer a way out. When she pressed on one spot for too long, a mild shock pulsed through it. Even so, she continued her inspection until there was nothing left to check. As the hours dragged on, the silence began weighing heavily on her. With nothing else to do, she started scratching the interior of the box with her nails, using the repetitive motion as her only distraction. Meanwhile, in a different box, another prisoner stirred awake. Her sentence was 2 years, with more than 500 days still remaining. From time to time, she heard a faint voice asking if she was still alive. She lay down on the floor and watched in fear as the metal rods began to lower, moving closer and closer, until they paused just above her face. The screen in front of her flickered, and the voice counting down began to glitch. For a moment, the woman allowed herself to believe the malfunction meant everything would stop. But when the glitch ended, the mechanism resumed, completing its cold, unforgiving task. The next morning, 13 continued inspecting every inch of her box, but once again found nothing that could help her. When the rain began, she placed her pot near the open hatch, letting the falling water collect inside. At last, she was able to drink. Later, she woke from a light nap to the sound of a voice. A young girl stood at the hatch, asking about her sentence. When she heard it was 7 years, she immediately assumed 13 must be political. The girl refilled the pot with clean water and handed over a small bag of food pellets, which 13 ate right away. Before leaving, the girl reminded her that citizens would decide each prisoner's future, paying no attention when 13 insisted she was innocent. She broke down again, overwhelmed by the realization that she had no control over anything, not even the direction of her own fate. Months passed, and 13 was still alive inside the box. She had been given a handful of seeds and a piece of newspaper. She placed the seeds in her bowl and held the paper near the hatch to catch some light. But the articles were written in a language she couldn't understand. The frustration brought her to tears, everything around her felt like deliberate torment. Later, she slipped her arm through the hatch and searched the ground outside until she found the rubber band ball. At last, she had something to occupy her time. The days dragged on, repeating the same dull pattern. 13 slept, tossed the rubber band ball around, and whenever the control panel opened the hatch, she leaned toward the outside world, taking in whatever sunlight she could. Before long, wounds began to form on her body, slowly worsening from the harsh conditions. Meanwhile, in another box, a man continued his 5-year sentence. He had already passed 1,000 days, and by this point, he had become a hollow version of himself, quietly repeating the same phrase again and again: "I am where I choose to be." The girl returned one day and asked 13 what she was doing. 13 simply replied, "Rehabilitation." The girl then mentioned she had been reading Shakespeare, a writer who had been banned for some time. 13 didn't recognize the name, but she explained that she could read, she just wasn't permitted to have any reading material inside the box. After pointing out that true rehabilitation was impossible without books, the girl gently held 13's hand and recited a line from Romeo and Juliet. 13 found the words beautiful and wished she could read the work herself someday. The girl tried to lend her the book through the hatch, but 13 refused, not wanting to cause trouble for either of them. Before leaving, the girl handed her some food and promised to return so she could read aloud to her. After the girl walked away, 13 couldn't stop thinking about the moment, the warmth of the girl's hand, the softness in her voice, and the brief kindness she had been shown inside a place designed to break people. A full year into her imprisonment, 13 opened a new bag of seeds and discovered a tiny book hidden among them. She lay down with her back to the camera and carefully opened it. To her astonishment, it was Romeo and Juliet. The poetic lines filled her with a rare sense of hope. The next time fresh water was provided, 13 took the chance to wash herself thoroughly, making sure to clean her wounds to prevent infection. The camera recorded 13's actions and labeled them as a misuse of water. So her box was moved back to the coast. Eventually, the girl returned and wondered what had caused 13 to be relocated. Instead of answering, 13 asked how the girl decided which prisoners to provide with supplies. The girl explained that she walked around, speaking to as many prisoners as she could. That day, a storm seemed to be approaching, so she would have to shorten her visit. When 13 asked the girl's age, she learned she was 16. Which prompted 13 to admit that the girl reminded her of her late sister. Weeks passed, and 13's sanity depended entirely on her little book. She kept it hidden in a crevice in the box and carefully took it out whenever she wanted to read. Always facing away from the camera. Sometimes, when she was desperate, she even relied on the faint moonlight to read, since it was weaker than the sun. One day, the drone moved her box again, and 13 watched it glide over the ocean before settling back onto the coast. When the hatch opened, a person appeared eating an apple, seemingly to taunt her. 13 pleaded for even a small portion and begged for kindness. But the person coldly explained that no mercy would be shown to any of the prisoners in the boxes. The moment the men began mistreating her, a patrolling drone detected the violation. It intervened immediately, ending the threat in an instant. In the chaos, a stray shot pierced the box and struck 13's leg. Pain surged through her, but she pushed herself forward, reaching outside to grab the apple she had been longing for. She ate it desperately, only to discover it was spoiled, filled with tiny worms. Nausea overcame her, and she couldn't keep it down. Later that night, an alarm jolted her awake. A cold, mechanical voice echoed through the box, announcing that trading for food broke the rules. The punishment, 7 days without sleep. It warned her this would be her only chance. Another violation meant death. A harsh light flooded the box, and the alarm blared endlessly. 13 tried everything, covering her eyes, blocking her ears, but nothing gave relief. Whenever the alarm paused and she tried to rest, it instantly resumed the moment she closed her eyes. A hatch opened. A beautiful woman appeared, stepping inside with impossible ease. 13 thought she recognized her face but couldn't place it. The woman calmly took a seat, playing with a teacup as if visiting a friend. Then she revealed the truth: none of this was real. She was only a hallucination, an imagined version of who 13 had once been before her capture. With unsettling cheerfulness, she described the strange ways the human mind copes under extreme stress, laughing while 13 could only cry. When the box finally announced the end of her punishment, 13 collapsed into long-delayed sleep. The hallucination faded, but the damage it left behind stayed with her. A few nights later, the sky outside lit up with fireworks. The voice spoke again, explaining it was the new year. To celebrate, the citizens had granted amnesty to every prisoner, except those held for political reasons. The man wonders aloud whether 13 would recognize the idea of mercy and gestures toward a nearby box that's burning. He suggests that a quick end is the best she could hope for, but 13 refuses. Later, she notices water dripping from the ceiling. Reaching up, she loosens a screw and briefly uses it to file her nails before letting it fall. She then begins scratching at the small opening it left, slowly trying to widen it. Later, the Shakespeare-loving girl returns. It takes 13 a moment to believe she's really there, but the girl fills her pot with clean water and gently touches her hand. She quotes a line from her book, and 13 is finally able to finish the sentence with her. Months pass, and 13 discovers she is pregnant as a result of her encounter with the Appleman. When the girl visits again, she tells 13 that her people want to rescue her and let her finish her sentence under their protection. But her words trigger the alarm, the hatch seals shut, and the girl is forced to run. 13 can only cry out in frustration as her chance slips away. Weeks later, a new man appears at the hatch. He notices that 13 is pregnant, and that she still has 4 years left to serve. Months pass, and 13 eventually goes into labor. After great effort, she delivers her baby alone in the box. She holds the newborn close, but the alarm immediately sounds. The system announces that she has violated another rule by having an additional person in the box, and that termination is required. Gas fills the space, and 13 loses consciousness. When she wakes, her child is gone. Overcome, she screams and pleads for her baby to be returned. 4 years later, she remains confined. A violent storm and strong waves slam against the box. The holes she scratched earlier now allow water to leak in, disrupting the light panel. As she reaches out, hoping to find something helpful, the malfunctioning system suddenly shuts the hatch on her arm. 13 cries out in pain as she tries to pull her arm free, but the effort only injures her further. After another system malfunction, the hatch finally opens, releasing her, though her arm is now badly hurt. Later, she spots a small bug on the floor. She steps on it with her bare foot, picks it up, and eats it, struggling not to gag. Water continues leaking into the box, so she collects some in her pot, but the flooding quickly grows worse. Even as the water rises, she attempts to read her book for comfort. Eventually, the water reaches a level where she can barely stand. The system detects a violation and announces that extermination procedures will begin. While 13 fights to stay above the water, a drone arrives to retrieve the box. But as it carries her through the storm, lightning strikes, causing the drone to fall and crash. The box drops as well and is carried away by the waves. The next morning, 3 young people are playing by the shoreline. They see the box wash onto the beach with 13 following after it, but they simply look, choose not to approach, and head back home.
Is in order. As 13 struggles to stay afloat, a drone shows up to pick up the box. However, as it flies away, the drone is struck by lightning and it crashes on the ground. The box falls too and soon the waves take it away. In the morning, 3 young people are playing by the coast. They notice the box washing ashore followed by 13 herself, but they ignore her and go home.